welcome back to the studio. Here we are again filling up Noah's Ark for the voyage. I can almost hear it raining. We have the monkeys, I think there was a mouse stowaway, the giraffes, and the cows. Next we're going to do the lions, and that may scare some of the other animals. Did you know that lions all roar in unison? I'm going to go ahead and get my light box out, my background fabric, and then I'm going to pull you in a little bit closer. Well, I have my light box out and I have my blocks that I cut before I started the whole process. Remember, the instructions for the fabric cutting are all in the kit. The fabric for the background is something that you choose, as well as the inner border and outer border. That's how you would personalize this kit. You also get to pick out your binding and your backing fabric. I was out today at my local quilt shop and I picked up 3 different fabrics that I think all would work as inner and outer border. One of the questions I've been asking is if I should put a sashing in between the blocks on this quilt. Now, the original quilt that they made in the office did not have a sashing, but I don't always like to do the exact same thing that they did, the exact same thing that you've already seen. So I'm asking you to leave a comment if you think I should put a sashing on my sample, yay or nay. Today I'm going to be working on the lion, and so the first thing I like to do is pull out my color cover sheet. And when it's a pretty simple block like this, it isn't always absolutely necessary, but sometimes when you have a lot of pieces, these really come in handy for keeping track of the pieces. Sometimes you'll have several pieces that are exactly the same shape, but there's many different colors in the kit. The other thing we have is a full-size pattern. The full-size pattern is great if you wanted to reproduce this again with your own fabric later. And you could do that with raw edge, applique technique, or even needle turn. I always like to give the pattern a quick press with a dry iron just to get out any creases, because I don't want those to translate into the misplacement of any of the shapes. The other thing we get is an instruction sheet which goes over in detail how this process works. It's always very quick on here, peel, place, and press, but it's a little bit more detailed on the paper. Now, I use these here in the studio because I've read this many times as a collection for my paper backings. So I'm going to go ahead and pull out all of my pieces, and I can see one of my pieces here has a crinkle in it, and I don't want that crinkle to stay, so I'm going to go ahead and press that out, and I'm going to give it a minute, and once that cools, it's perfectly fine to use. Sometimes a shape is too big to put into the envelope, the package, without folding, and so it will have a crease in it, and I always wanted to take those creases out as well, and then just give it a minute to cool and you're good to go. Just as a way of collecting my thoughts, I usually like to separate the pieces just in some kind of order so that I have some idea of what I'm doing. Oh, only one. I thought that was a horn, and it is not. Okay, 2 to go there, 2 here, and now I think I'm ready. So I'm going to go ahead and pull you in closer because I don't think you can see from back there. But I'm ready now to get going, and it really is probably going to go pretty quick because of so few pieces. So let me pull you in. Now, as I said earlier, these are just peel, place, and press, and that's because they've all been pre-fused in a manufacturing process with Steam-A-Seam 2. So this is a piece of fabric, a layer of fusible web, and then a piece of paper. So we're going to go ahead and peel that paper off the back, and I'm going to place that on my instruction page, and I'm just going to place this right on my pattern. Anywhere you see a dotted line on the pattern, that just indicates that that shape, that piece of the shape, goes underneath something else. This lion has a beautiful mane. Did you know the lion's mane continues to grow throughout its life? The mane usually gets darker as he matures, and it also gets bigger as he gets older. It's one of his main defenses, protections, because it protects his neck from getting injured. It's also a big, beautiful mane. It's also like a sign of dominance. Almost all of the lions live in Africa, with a very few exceptions. Let's see, let's do the tail next. Another little sneaky thing about lions is they like to hunt during a storm. And I wonder if that isn't because the storm might be blowing his scent in a different direction, or also maybe masking the scent of the lion, covering the sound. I wonder how many times I could turn this before I find the right way for it to go. If anyone's keeping count, I'm going to touch this tip down real quick just because it's folding up again. Okay, now it's getting a little bit hard to see. So sometimes what I'll do in this case is, I'm going to put this back on its shape, and I'm going to make the other pieces go on it while it's on here, and then I can just peel that whole piece off, and it won't be so hard to see. One of the great things about this is that almost any skill level could participate. Sometimes when you just get into crafting, you want to participate in something and you haven't gone to all of the applique classes or all of the sewing classes, but you still want to make something. And it's nice to be able to make something like this where it doesn't require having learned dozens and dozens of intricate techniques before you can finish something and have a really beautiful result. As you can see in the studio all around me, these samples are really, really beautiful, and they really do bring a lot of joy to the studio. So now I can just kind of lift up the edge and see where to place this compound piece. And now I can just get my ears tucked under the head and I've got it nailed. I wouldn't want to try and outrun a lion. Did you know that a lion can run over 50 miles an hour? And they're pretty good at jumping too. They can jump over 36 feet. I have to tell you, that's a wee bit more than I can jump. So I'm going to go ahead and switch out my light box for my Teflon pressing sheet, and I'm going to double check that everything is looking good, and then we can get fusing. While you were away, I moved my right ear 3 times because I felt like it looked a little bit funny. The one thing I can tell you about my iron is I never put water in it. That's because an iron almost always leaks. Usually I stumble over the cord and at some point and drop the iron on the floor and break a seal or something. And then the iron starts leaking. So I don't put water in mine. I just keep a little water mister handy. And this is how I'm going to add moisture to my steam-a-seam process. I spritz the top and then I'm going to layer or sandwich my block in between the 2 layers of the Teflon pressing sheet, and I'm going to go ahead and start fusing. The Teflon pressing sheet really helps keep my block clean. It also keeps the sole plate of my iron clean. So the glue isn't transferring one to the other if any seeps out, and anything on my iron isn't transferring to my block. I also am keeping the shapes really nice and pristine. Sometimes I get lazy and push the iron side to side and it would catch the edge of the applique and crinkle, and it would be underneath the sole plate where I couldn't see it, and then I would have a crinkled up mess where that had caught the edge. This step here is where we really must take our time, because this is where the applique becomes permanent. If we fuse properly, there's no way that the applique is going to come off during a wash or dry cycle. The best indication of underfusing generally is that when you're stitching, either top stitching or quilting, that there's gumming on the needle. Now here at the studio, we do not top stitch any of these appliques. They are quilted, but we do not top stitch around the applique pieces. Steam-a-seam 2 does not require any top stitching around the applique shapes. It's totally permanent if you fuse properly. Again, no top stitching is required. Steam and Seam 2 can be used on a wide variety of projects like wood, glass, canvas, burlap. If you can't use an iron on it, you could still use a spray bottle and use the heat of a blow dryer and just press it in place with a tea towel until you get it the way you need it. We've done samples on glass. We've got a glass jar right behind me that has one of our applique shapes on it. I'm going to go ahead and turn the block over. We're just absolutely making sure that we've got this perfectly fused. So now I'm going to press it from the back down. I can see by all the steam coming up that there's still moisture in the block, so I can keep pressing until we get that out. And now once we get these lion up in the arc, I bet some of those other animals might be a little trepidatious. I can almost hear the lions roar now. We have our little lion ready. Looks like a young lion because this mane is not that big yet. Still not that dark either. But this lion is now ready to board the arc, and in the next month we'll probably do a zebra or a hippo. So thanks for joining me today. It's always nice to have company here in the studio because it gets really quiet in here. Sometimes all I hear are crickets. I still need to know sashing, yay or nay. I would kind of like to see the sashing myself, but if nobody wants to see it, I won't do it. So that's it for today. I'm going to go ahead and put this block with the others. Thanks for joining me, and until next time, take care of yourself, and also take care of everyone around you. Yep, that's it.